republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome. This meeting is being televised by Chelmsford Telemedia. Is there anyone present planning to record? There is no one indicating that. Our secretary is going to do the meeting from home. That's why I'll make comments like that periodically.
I like that. Can the board members do that too?
Sure. Actually, can. All right. Well, I'll entertain a motion at this point so I don't forget to take item 1 on the agenda, which is the Byam School Report, out of order, and then we'll do public comments after that. So I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
You want to make a motion to take item number 1, the Byam School Report, out of order, sir?
Right.
I make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, we get that done, and we'll just do the consent agenda quickly. I'll entertain a motion to accept the school committee regular meeting of 27th, the minutes, and the regular school committee meeting of March 6th.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the regular school committee meetings February 27, 2018, and March 6, 2018.
Second.
Does anyone have any corrections or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
I have to abstain on the 27th?
Yeah.
The 27th, yeah.
Okay.
That was the budget meeting.
So with that exception, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
With
And abstain.
John's, yeah. Okay. All right, you want to?
Yeah, great. We'll come back to the rest of the announcements and public participation a little bit later. But we'd like to invite up Principal Jason Fredette from the Byam Elementary School with some of his students to make the presentation on the Byam.
Yeah, we got a couple other chairs. You can both get on the chair. Scooch over. Didn't get a chair. Do I have to hook back up for you? Coming in full force.
Yep, you take your time and
Yeah.
introduce people for us, and you can kick it off whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having us. Kind of figured out the formula a few years ago where when we bring students with us, the questions seem to really dwindle from the school committee. So we really brought that in so that the questions aren't as pointed and difficult, and you can certainly have our students some questions as well. But thank you. My name's Jason Fredette. I have a host of folks here with us. We have students, and we have our school council as well, made up of family members, also teachers, and then our community representative. So I won't go through introductions for everybody, but one of the things I do want to say that we were very challenged to pull this together. We meet on Wednesdays, and consecutive Wednesdays were canceled and had evening meetings, so we worked kind of separately, pulled it all together, and just really thankful for the hard work. And I do want to just mention, I attend a lot of meetings, and one of my favorites is really our school council. It's a great mix of staff, as I said, community member, and families. And we've been together for a few years now, so it's really nice to have a group with a candid discussion where you can get feedback and take it in such a fashion that is constructive and getting different points of view and input. So it is definitely, and I say that to all my meetings and committees, but certainly that is truly one of my favorites. So we're going to take you a few guided tours from our students that we shot some videos, and we've joined, some of us have joined us here. We thought some of the big things that we're going to look at was hopefully full-day kindergarten is one in everybody's mix. So we wanted to talk to the experts, some of our kindergartners, about that. So if you ever kind of envision kids say the darndest things, is that true? Did we say the darndest things? Well, I think they were very articulate. So we're going to share a quick video about our kindergartners. And then the other end of our developmental spectrum is our fourth graders who moved us into some new digs this year. They are in the modular building, aka the pods that you might say. Someone might say party pods. That's not official. But we have three of our fourth graders, did a great job in kind of leading a tour of that facility for you too. And then Katie Harris, who's second grade teacher at our school, is also on our school council, is going to talk about the science curriculum too. So that's been a big enhancement for the Chelmsford Public Schools, certainly Byam, but all the K-5. And we'll do that. And then we have Stacy Karasek as our BSA president, who's going to share a bit about what we're doing. Always important, the PTOs are such a rich part of the fabric of our schools, so they're going to share a little bit about that work. But first, I don't know, Ms. O'Donnell, if you wanted to go through this, do you want me to do it? You can see it?
Well, you can go
Okay, I'll go through it.
You go through it.
Why don't we do this? So, if you haven't noticed, 2017 marked the inaugural full-day kindergarten year at the Chelmsford Public Schools, which was a thrilling triumph. I know a lot of you have put a lot of years and time into that, a lot of political support and things that went into that, a lot of planning, and it's happening, and we're happy to report that it's become a huge success. The district also funded, which was fantastic, a 3-day workshop for all of our teachers, both veteran and new teachers to start, and it was a great networking and way to connect with all of those teachers embarking on this full-day kindergarten program. So it was a great August workshop that we were able to provide. When you look at the full-day kindergarten, that huge enhancement of, while the curriculum doesn't change, the depth that we can get into curriculum is, staggering. I know when we did this workshop, everyone was worried about, oh my goodness, we've taught half day, how are we going to fill this day? And I told them, don't trust me, you're going to have trouble fitting it all in, and it's true, because the depth that you can go in and the way that you can enhance curriculum is huge. And not to be forgotten is that social-emotional part of kindergarten. And I think, unfortunately, over the years, when that pendulum does swing back and forth, those of us who went to kindergarten found those welcoming, play-based settings that were really good developmentally appropriate practices for 5- and 6-year-olds. And so we're able to match kind of that curriculum with purposeful play and opportunities, as well as the curriculum piece now with the academics. And we feel like we've really got off this year with a very robust program, and that's, I can report that from all the schools as well. So our kindergartners, everybody was wondering about the schedule. They have the same recess lunchtime and also specialist time. And for all my kindergartners up here too, how does that seem? You guys handle that schedule? They do. And I will tell you, yes, there's nobody falling asleep. I can attest to that when we walk through. And there is a lot of busy, purposeful learning, which is fantastic. So that's kind of just a few of our highlights. I did want to then kind of take you into our, as Mrs. O'Donnell, thank you to Mrs. O'Donnell, who was our editor of all of our videos and putting them together into iMovie. And so she entitled it Full Day Yay, which is great. But let me just make sure everybody can hear this when we get it. So kindergartners, this is it. Are you guys ready? This is you.
Whole day at school. What do you think about that? I think that we should actually have a full day. Why? Because we get to learn about really? That's you. They have about to imagine like 2 or 1 because we unless we smaller, we're bigger than small. Jason. That is definitely
What do you think about
It's
being
pretty
at school?
fun. The people that said we are too tiny and we can't say school, they are so rude.
Too little kids school? No. Clarissa, tell me.
I think I'm not too little to be at school because I've been to school before.
Right, okay. So you get to enjoy having your lunch with your buddies? And what do you do when you're sitting at the table?
You should be polite.
That's good. And you're having like conversations? Or?
Usually
Happy time.
it's like a school. It's like instead of being home and having just your family, you have your little friends around. Much harder.
Why isn't it going to me or you?
You gotta cut like 2 times 1. You don't wanna cut paper.
Oh, you need to be able to cut in the lines.
Learning much more.
Like what?
Like you learning how to do math, you don't do that in preschool at all. I remember preschool, no math.
Can you read now, Emilio? What's your very favorite thing to do at school?
Centers, math, and lunch. Math.
You like to run it at recess? Awesome. Tell me about the kind of work you do at school.
We do some math, which is games, and we build stuff too.
Cool.
And we can't draw.
I'm doing my
What else?
We do some morning work to learn letters.
Ooh, letters are fun, aren't they? It's true, it's true.
I cover a lot of different things. My family with my family.
Mostly your family. And where do you do this work? Is there a special book?
Elementary.
In your journal? Oh, yeah.
You can make cool pictures and cool books in it.
Oh, really? What kind of?
Like an illustrator.
An illustrator. You are like an illustrator. Are you like an author? How do you know?
Because you write words and draw words.
You write and draw.
Well, I like recess.
You like recess. What about you, Luke? If you could pick one thing besides recess, what would you pick?
I kind of like writing it. I can put it together Oh, well, it's really fun, and I can't wait.
So I did ask one of our school council members, Sean O'Leary, is a new parent to Byam and to kindergarten, so he had kind of a unique perspective, and I just asked him to possibly, if we could get the microphone, yeah, just kind of share a perspective of what first time coming into the school district and with full day kindergarten was like for his family and his son. Finn, one of our stars of the video.
So the good and the bad news for Finn was that both his parents are educators, right? And so both mom and dad had horror stories that we were nervous about happening for Finn through our, what we've experienced. But we also had great stories that we're hopeful about, right? And so when we are sending our oldest off to kindergarten, we sort of have these expectations that we're struggling with. And I really got to say that we've had a very, very positive experience. And, you know, for us, he's certainly grown leaps and bounds in multiple ways. His literacy skills have been, you know, almost weekly we see that he's mastering his sight words, and he's eager to come home and practice with us. He's eager to read his books to us, and so that's been really good. And so we're obviously pleased with that, but you know, we are looking beyond academics here as well, and socially, Finn, we've had the opportunity to attend some events where Finn sort of walks by and, hey, and we pretend that he's the mayor a little bit, but you know, he has made strong connections already, and for us that's been important. We have also been very excited about the opportunity for our family, and maybe this is what we're most excited about. Both to his mom and I, we believe that these are very formative years for him about how he's going to view school and education for the rest of his life. So for us, it's been very, very important that that's sort of gotten off on the right foot, and it's been really nice that our family's been able to participate with that. We've had the opportunity, I've personally had the opportunity to read in class a number of times, which is fun to say the least. We attended a family event, the Boo Bash, this year. It was definitely a family event to get Finn ready for his collector fair, where he demonstrated his collection of Legos. And then lastly, just most recently, he came up with a hypothesis around if lobsters are good pets for the science fair. And what did you decide, Finn? No, okay. So for us, it was a very pleasant surprise, the level of interaction and engagement we had as a family, sort of beyond our delight of where our son is in his development. For us to be able to participate that and engage so fully has been fantastic. Byam has done a very nice job of including us and making us feel very much part of the school community. So we're thankful for that.
All right, fourth graders. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, kindergartners.
Big seat.
You guys want to come over in the middle? Yeah.
They're fun.
They are.
I'd rather not sit.
All right, now to the other end are our fourth graders. So we're welcoming in these new kindergartners, and we're shortly, sad to say, going to be welcoming out these fourth graders as they move on to middle school, which is really kind of important to me because these guys and I started at Byam the same year, right? So I'm my fifth year, and so they started here. So I've watched these guys from kindergarten to go on, and we were really pleased to have them share the modular. So I don't know, Ms. Babson, who's back in one of our fourth grade inhabitants of teachers of our fourth grade module, you want to cue us up here a little bit?
Okay, well, we love the modules. It's a great place for learning, and we are very excited that we're the first ones to get to live there during the school day. And we have Evan here, and Kevin, and Madeline, who also love working in the pods. And they've put together a little tour, which our friend Kathy Miss Burgess took the video of them introducing to you their favorite spots in the modules. Do you guys like learning there?
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
At the modules?
Yeah.
Probably the new bathrooms because usually like in third grade, if I saw those bathrooms, I would just be in shock compared to the ones in the pods.
Although they've been renovated now. They are. So, and you can see, you'll see a little bit more poetic license as these guys give you the tour with our fourth graders. But and they themselves, there was no script. They did this on their own. So.
This is all of them. We did not have anything.
And I mean that. So anything that they say
exactly
was not in the script.
Nothing from us.
And here's the front entrance. Passway. And over there Here is a sensor, and here is, it shows you how much water comes on the drain. So when you put your water bottle here, the sensor will go, the water will fill up. When it starts filling up, it will come to the top, and then it's going to drain. Us kids don't go in it, but here it's just a setup. You can see they have a little table right here, and of course, where they have to do their business. Here's the sink. The sink is basically just the same thing in the boys and girls bathroom. Welcome to the girls' bathroom. This is basically how it's in the day. And then there's the little sanitizer. Same with the towel sensor. This is the candy capsule, where people do business. So these other cells are where people do their business. And that's about it. Welcome to the boys' bathroom. Here is where we do other needs than just our needs. So here's the station. One press, wash. Over here is when we can do this. And here's the handicap spot for people who need it. P.U. Here's the printer where kids and staff can actually print from it. Because kids can print it from their Chromebook by doing buying on black. And over here is the copier, where sometimes you were, and that you wouldn't know where to put the paper from. You can just hold it right here and add some, but keep on doing your copy. And here's the fourth grade hallway. Right now, it looks like someone are using the Chromebooks. Here's the skeleton. This little interval hallway is where the copies are. Looks like they're going to math right now. This is playground. And here is room 33, the beehive, which actually has their own bee pictures. And here is the door with all. And this was actually from Christmas, like all these clothes and stuff. And here is all the work we use. So here is Mrs. Burgess and Harley Lee. So over here is really Mrs. Burgess' spot, but if you come over here, right over here is Mrs. Harley Lee's spot with all the math stuff. Welcome to the chill zone, where this is where fourth graders chill out sometimes by sitting on the flying on the rug or sitting in the rocking chair. Really comfy rocking chair. And this concludes the tour of the modules with the back afterwards. Bye.
Well, hopefully that gives you a little bit of a flavor. Anything you guys want to add?
I don't think so.
You sure?
Yeah.
You're up here, this is your time. Madeline?
I have noticed one thing.
Okay.
The classrooms, they're very spacious. It's
They-
almost like they almost feel bigger, even though they aren't.
They're not. They're actually not bigger, and I think that's probably due to the furniture that is a little bit more streamlined and IKEA-like. But that was a great observation. Thank you. All right. Well, moving on. I appreciate all their hard work, and they did certainly. That was really a student-driven video and project. Next, we're going to turn it over to, you've got a microphone over there, Katie Harris, who's joining us, actually back, did a little hiatus at the middle school level, but is back teaching second grade and was going to give just a quick overview. Are you good with the overview, or do you want?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, the just kind of grade level, and then I'll kick in your slide too, okay?
Awesome,
Thanks.
sounds good. So I'm Katie Harris. I'm a second grade teacher at Byam Elementary School. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the FOSS science implementation. So each grade right now is working on a different science unit. So in kindergarten, they have trees and weather. First grade, light and sound. Second grade, which I'll be talking more about, is solids and liquids. Third grade is motion and matter. And fourth grade is energy. So with these science kits that we've been working on, it's really an active investigation. The lesson begins with the teacher modeling and actively involving the students in learning. And the kiddos are provided multiple ways and opportunities to acquire new information. The science also introduces a wealth of vocabulary to the students. So you have science word walls, and the students are practicing these new vocabulary terms in multiple ways. We also utilize our technology. So there are videos and games on the FOSS website. There's also examples for teachers to preview. So it's a great opportunity that if it's your first year teaching or you're new to the science kit, that you can get a little preview before you're working on it in your classroom. In addition to that, during the science lessons, all of the kiddos are working in their science notebooks. So this is a really good opportunity for the kiddos to gather data, to learn about recording, organizing, and a way for them to process their own learning. It also serves as a way for them to look back at what they've gained knowledge about throughout the years. While the students are investigating, there's multiple ways of formative assessment. So for example, we were learning different terminology for liquids: translucent, transparent, viscous, bubbly, foamy, and the kiddos played Go Fish with those cards and those terms. So it's a nice opportunity that the teacher can walk around, check in on the vocabulary, check in on the learning, and yet the kiddos are having a lot of fun with a game that they've been familiar with. Another component of the FOSS is that we get to go outdoors, which is really nice. So in second grade, we have been going outdoors with solids. So we're finding solids in nature. We're also finding man-made solids, the difference between the two. As the weather warms up, we'll be looking for liquids outside with puddles and how they are created in nature, but also how we could create a puddle. I know kindergarten has adopted a tree in the yard, and they've been able to watch it throughout the seasons. So it's a nice opportunity to also explore the school grounds. So with my first year of doing this program, it's been really exciting. You know, you say that you're going to do science, the kiddos all are excited, they're cheering, and a lot of learning is taking place. So it's nice to see the engagement level with the kiddos with the science.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to invite Stacy Karasek, who's our BSA president. Maybe okay, over there.
It's fine. I can sit here. Oh, all right. So just wanted to give you a little overview of kind of what we're doing. Some things might be same or different than the other schools. So this year, you know, we still focused on the enrichment programs. We do 3 per grade level, and some of them are field trips. Some of them are in-house. This year we had a new field trip that was a STEM enrichment program, which was really interesting. We went to UMass Lowell, and that was a couple weeks ago. So little scheduling issues, but we finally got all the third graders to go. So I think it was really a different program this year, and we have a lot of different parents that have come forward with different ideas this year, which has been great. So working with us on the BSA and just trying to come up with some different things for people, you know, that everyone's interested in, so that the kids, I think, really enjoyed that. You know, we still work through providing funding for classrooms and supplies for teachers. We give classroom allowances at the beginning of the year, and then as things are needed during the year, teachers can come forward for example, posters for a unit project or something, so we're able to provide funding for that. We do fundraisers, so glad to see people enjoy the Boo Bash. So that's one of our largest fundraisers in the fall. It's really taken off, and every year everyone looks forward to it, so that's really a good fundraiser. We also do the walkathon, which is coming up in May. So that's another one of our biggest fundraisers. So this year has been a challenge to, you know, get the funding for different things. It's been, I mean, I think the community as a whole, I think people are reaching out to everyone, everywhere. So we're finding, you know, some things are a little lower than we expected as far as fundraising. But, you know, we're still trying. We've definitely involved a lot more. Some different families have come forward for the walkathon and doing some, you know, help with the corporate fundraising and things like that. So finding different ways to, get fundraising. But I think as we kind of see throughout the community, it's definitely a hard thing to keep doing. We also do the Teacher Appreciation Week and do different things throughout the year for the teachers. This year we did a few different things. We kept up with the reading challenge. That was new last year. This year our goal was to read 290,000 minutes, and we actually read 312,000 minutes. So Mr. Fredette was able to dress up in a costume. That was the
School committee is very aware of my costume.
Yeah, we've seen that. So that was definitely something this year. Everyone looks forward to it in January, just because it's a time of year where people are staying indoors more, and people really just took off with the reading. Which is great to see. Sometimes people say, well, can we have it go longer? Because it's the first time you don't have to get your kids to read every night. They actually want to read. So we did the garden club last year, which was great. We had a vendor come in from Westford and kickstart the garden club with a few teachers from the 2nd grade and some others. And we had smaller groups, so that was in the fall and the spring. We're looking to continue it this spring, just in-house though, because we purchased the supplies last year, so we really have the beds and everything and just need to maintain it this year. So we're looking to do that again, a smaller group size again, about 20 students, and we do that after school. So that was something different, an after-school enrichment program, so that was fun. The theater program was also new this year, as Emily saw. She was very involved in that. We had a little, challenge with the snow days. We haven't quite had the final performance, but we had a company come in and help us with that. And it was supposed to be for a week and culminating in a final performance at the end. But I think that'll be maybe in June.
They're due back,
so,
yeah.
So we'll get back to it. But I think that was really a great turnout. I think, So that was something new this year too. We had the Sweetheart Dance, which the name is definitely controversy, so we'll be renaming that next year. But this was the 2nd year that we did it. But we sold out. Everyone really enjoyed it. It's a great time for the kids to come. We have activities. One of the parents is actually the DJ. Kids dance. We had a dance studio come in and teach the kids dances and things. So it was just really a couple hours and just a good time for people to. We had it at the high school, so.
So they didn't have to bring sweethearts. That was the,
it was meant to be a family member or
yeah.
a grandparent or something, or friend, or not your students and your classmates. Which, we made clear, but I think there was a little bit of.
There was a little misunderstanding
again. Yeah. So, and we had a back-to-school picnic this year, which was fun, and that's in September. We get everybody involved and get everybody back on the playgrounds and stuff, so that was neat. And then we do sporting events. That's always with UMass Lowell, and we do the Red Sox and spinners and things like that. So, yeah, so those are some of the things that we've done. As far as fundraising, this year, last year we raised $35,000. This year our goal is $28,000, like I mentioned. It's a little lower because we're just finding that there's not, as many ways to, really effectively fundraise. We're finding that, the corporate donors are still giving, but they're giving smaller increments because they're giving to more, different venues. So, we reduced it a little bit this year. We'll see what happens with the walkathon, which is our biggest event, which is really how we fund the enrichment programs. The enrichment funding is about $40. Actually, I should have said 40,000.
I know you.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah. My numbers in my head, So yeah, that's a lot right now. About $40 per student, and that's through kindergarten through 4th grade. So the different programs that we have, and then we do the field trips, the teacher appreciation, and then other community events. Everyone else. So.
And I have to say, we our programming, our school wouldn't be as enriched as it is, and without our PTOs in town, but especially the BSA, who, our core members work tirelessly to really create a lot of wonderful opportunities for our students. I guess what I'm going to do is, just before we entertain any questions, is there anybody who, school council or student otherwise, has any last words before we turn it over to some questions?
I'll say as a teacher, just how grateful we are to have the BSA helping us out. I feel very supported by them. They're always there if I need something for a student, or I need new ideas to get something going on in my classroom. And I don't think Byam would be what it is without all of your support.
Thank you. Yeah, we helped with the modulars this year with some supplies and things that were needed too.
That was great.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, we will enter. Is there any questions that we can answer?
I have one question. Finn, did you learn to tie that tie at school?
Who tied your tie, buddy? Who tied your tie?
Good
don't
answer.
learn everything.
Good answer.
Most important lessons are outside of school sometimes.
Katie, you spoke about going from one level to the second grade. Tell me about that transition. Was it fun? Are you excited to be at the second? Do you miss the other
Oh,
one?
of course. You know, I was at Byam School for 7 years teaching fourth grade, and I had an opportunity to go to the middle schools, and I loved the opportunity. And I, you know, oftentimes think of myself as a student that I never want to stop learning and growing, and I think that part of that is experiencing different grade levels and different curriculum, and just like the kiddos, you know, just eager and excited to try something new, and science got to be a part of it this year.
Sometimes teachers, and sometimes it's a little bit of a conversation to have because they get in a comfort zone and they didn't want to leave that. And I always maintained it's such a wonderful experience to see what some of the other class sizes and grades are doing. Did you find that to be the case?
Oh, absolutely. It's really been very welcoming and very enjoyable to be back in second
I'm
grade.
sure you took some of those experiences back and forth, right?
Oh, of course. And I think that it allows for great opportunity of conversation and, you know, communication and collaboration, because you've now had the opportunity to work with a variety of people and learning styles and learning types, and you can just share different things with various teachers. You know, I'm oftentimes over in Miss Babson's realm saying, hey, did you know that in fourth grade the kiddos learned this in second grade? And we can go back and forth. And so I think it's a really nice opportunity.
Thank you, Katie.
It is nice, Sal, too, to have people that have had experience, right? As we transition kids, it's really helpful to have people that have been in both places, right? So they get the bigger picture of where things go. So when you have students in second grade, oh, are they going to make it? And guess what? In sixth grade, they made it, right? They get there. So it is nice to have that information and wealth of knowledge staff between buildings, too.
Plus, I bet you it keeps it exciting, you know? You get to see different things, and the kids at different ages. It must be so exciting to, you know, see that maturity increase.
And just to like see them grow. You know, I know where they're headed, and you know what are the building blocks specifically for 7 and 8 year olds right now, so that when they get to be 12 and 13, they're where they need to be. And I think that that's a great opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Mr. Fredette, I want to jump in. I've said it here at this table in this fall about how excited I was to start this school year with the full day K, and I was sharing my excitement with a colleague who was a fresh new teacher, and said, I hope that when you are 23 years in, you can feel this excited about going into the school year. Of course, she had to add that, you know, she's having her 23rd year of life. I started my 23rd year of teaching, but you know, it's been such a breath of fresh air, and you know, I think I didn't speak after the video, but I think the children really, you know, answered our questions and really, you know, showed the blend between the academics and the social pieces that are so important for our grade level, and to be able to have the time for them to be able to really develop both academic and social skills is just such a blessing for the kids in this town. So yeah, it's really been a great experience, and totally different. My teaching is completely different, so.
I would just like to thank you for coming tonight. I think the kids and the staff did a great job. The other thing I would like to do is personally thank you, because I know we touched on this at the beginning of your presentation, and to Marie's point as well, there was a significant amount of work that went into implementing full day K. Not only the construction of the buildings, but a lot of the professional development and kind of the adjusting to having students full day. It wasn't as big of an adjustment for the kids because they didn't know any different, but I think it was significant for the staff. And Jason actually led last summer a 3-day workshop with all of our district staff, not only the kindergarten teachers at Byam, but the other 3 schools as well. And I remember coming by and it was hot, and you were there working prior to the start of the school year. But every kindergarten teacher, you know, gave up their time during the summer to actually dedicate and commit to coming to that 3-day workshop. And I think it was great to see some of the veteran teachers with some of the newer teachers, and just talking through, you know, what is it going to mean to us? You know, what is a full day going to mean as opposed to a half day? And I think a lot of that behind the scenes work, which people don't always see, is really appreciated. And I just want to thank you and thank the staff for giving up that time over the summer to do that, because I really think this was a significant adjustment in programming, and it's gone off remarkably well in this first year. And it wouldn't have been the case if we didn't have as many dedicated individuals and staff willing to put the time in outside of the school year to really hit it off. So I thank you personally, staff as well. It's been great, but I wanted to personally tell you that.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. So, not a question. So when we moved to Chelmsford, we moved into a town with a lot of great schools in this district, and my wife and I, we chose Parkerville Road, which happened to be in the Byam, this part of the district. And I will say, and I don't speak for my wife very often because she would yell at me, but I think we would definitely agree that we are incredibly grateful that we ended up as part of the Byam community. My daughter Elle's had a great education, and I'm looking forward to my son Ian going through the program as well. So thank you guys.
I'd like to thank you all for coming, and I'd also like to comment on the obvious relationship between the school and the community. I think that was a real strength in terms of tonight's presentation, the many different dimensions of it, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good work. What's that? Byam's really
Yeah, I knew it was your home schools.
We're going back to, yeah, the chair opening statement and the public comments. I don't think there's a lot of, after they all clear in, I don't think there's going to be a lot of public left, but good opportunity to let them go. Yeah.
I love when the kids come in.
It makes the meeting.
Okay, folks, at this time, we're going to go back to public input. Does anyone that would like to address the committee, please just give us your name and address for the secretary's record. Is there anyone who would like to address the committee at this time? Yeah, okay.
It's the public session. I don't think they can hear you up there.
Yeah. If there's anyone who would like to address the committee at this time, please feel free to come forward and just give us your name and address. Nobody? Okay. Our student representatives.
So today is the MCAS ELA test for sophomores and any new students. And it's today through Thursday. Next Tuesday is April 3rd is an early release day. And this weekend is the All-Town Wind Ensemble concert at Carnegie Hall.
So on April 5th, there's going to be a student-led concert of like all the student-led groups put on by Tri-M. And so wrestling teams, Evan Goodall made All-American, and he placed 8th place, oh my God, in a national tournament in Virginia Beach. And debate finals were also this weekend at Chelmsford High, and they had over 300 people, and it was a 14-hour competition.
Okay, good news.
So speaking in regards to the All-Town Wind Ensemble, otherwise known as ATWE, they won the gold medal at the MICA conference. And for those of you that don't know what MICA is, it stands for Massachusetts Instrumental and Choral Conductors Association Conference. Say that 10 times fast. So also our McCarthy Festival Band, they also won, for the second year in a row, consecutive gold medal for the same conference. So they were very excited about that. And lastly, both Byam Elementary School and Parker Middle School had their science fairs this month. And two of the judges at Parker are sitting right here right now. Gave the kids a lot of feedback. You should have saw some of the experiments that they had and how excited they were. Especially at Parker, it was their first time ever having one. So the kids were super excited, and the turnout was unbelievable.
I would just like to add, because I got a lot of communication about the musical groups being successful, and people wanted to be sure that Allie Lacasse and Sean Wright get a lot of credit for the time that they've put in with those groups, so. It was, the town, I think, really celebrated it. There was a lot of talk about it, that's for sure. So it's just great. And, we, in previous meetings, we've been listing a lot of other things. Obviously, our students continue to excel. All right, so we are now, item 2, school calendar.
Sure. Item number 2 this evening is a discussion and then a vote on what to do with the school calendar as far as the makeup day, the day that we need to make up. So you recall about a week or so ago, I sent an email out after we had our last snow day and cancellation due to more power than anything. We ended up exceeding the number of days that we can to hit the 180 days. So we were already going to be getting out on Friday, June 29th, prior to the last snow day. So after we had the last snow day, that backed us back up, and we technically need to make up a day to hit the 180 required days of the school calendar. So based on where we are in the calendar, we really have 3 options to consider. You cannot have school on a Sunday, and you can't have school on a holiday, or a state-recognized holiday. So our only 3 options are to do something on Good Friday, to do something on the 4 days of April vacation that are left, you can't use that Monday, or to do something on Saturdays. Knowing that there is no decision that we're going to make that's going to be, accepted by everyone, all of the different decisions have some type of a flaw to them. But if we're going to make up this day somewhere, the day seemed to have the least impact on people's schedule was the Good Friday. So I originally sent a communication out to families indicating that I'd be recommending we go back to school on Good Friday to make up that day. Again, we received a lot of emails. They were more so, well, couldn't we just come back for an extra half an hour a day or different things like that? Couldn't we switch a PD day to a full day? But you technically have to have the 180 days in school. So a day that we're in for a half day of a PD, technically if you just lengthen the day, that doesn't count as an extra day. So I had a lot of conversations with that, and the resounding kind of sentiment came from, I think, parents and staff, that of those 3 options, if there has to be one, the Good Friday option was the least objectionable. But the request was, could it possibly be a half day instead of a full day? So if we did a half day, you're still covering yourself as far as having the 180 school days. But individuals, if they had plans for that weekend and needed to travel, or if they were going to go to religious services, most of them happen in the afternoon, could we consider that? So I talked to our internal staff, and obviously we want to have there be a day that's productive. It wouldn't be helpful for us to schedule a day and then have staff and parents just not come at all. We have to make sure that the schools are properly staffed and it's safe to have school. So that was a concession I was willing to make to try to make the day as, again, palatable as possible, but also get in our requirement. So I sent that communication out to parents again over the weekend. I've tried to keep them in the loop. I know there's some frustration that we couldn't just either make a decision or make it sooner, but I was trying to at least kind of signal what we'd be recommending so people could start to do a little bit of unofficial planning if that happened. So my recommendation this evening is to move forward and actually hold school on Friday, but have it be a half day. Have the half day follow the traditional professional development day that we have in the district, so just follow that schedule as far as the buses will run the regular time in the morning, but they will just leave on the half day schedule. And it will be a half day for staff and students. So the students would leave, again, the PD day schedule, and then the staff would leave after the kids. So that is the recommendation. I'd like to have a discussion with the committee on that and then seek an action on that tonight, obviously, because it's timely. Friday is Good Friday. And then, I don't want to muddy the waters on a couple of different issues. We do need to take that vote, I feel, to at least get this Friday scheduled. But then if we want to have a conversation, there are some other districts that are concerned about going to school that last week in June, and what is that really going to mean for learning and vacations and scheduling and things like that. The state, for the first time, as far as I can remember, is allowing districts to seek a waiver if they've hit all these different criteria to possibly be able to trade off some time at the end of June for other time during the school year. Linda and I had an initial conversation today on this, and I think if that's something we want to entertain, it would require doing some parent and staff surveys, very soon to kind of see how they feel. There were districts like Barica was one, that were in a little bit worse shape than we are, where they were just going into the week for like a Monday or a Tuesday. We right now are in for 5 days, but they're trying to basically buy back 2 days of time over the course of so many weeks leading up to the end of the year to get out Friday the 22nd. I think, looking at the initial guidance, if we wanted to take off, it wouldn't make sense to not try to get out of that whole week. So if we wanted to take 5 days back, we would basically have to add about a half an hour on to the rest of each day, in early April, right through the end of the school year, to technically make up your time. So that is something that we could look into. I mean, the other option would be doing, because it's about 25 hours of time we got to make back. You could do an hour a day for 25 days or half an hour for 50 days. I personally think if we try to do an hour at the end of the day, it's going to conflict a lot with people's second jobs, with athletics. There's a whole slew of things. A half an hour might be more palatable to look at. If you're currently a high school student and I know, I'm sorry. If you're a senior, you gotta make it up. But if you're going to school now and you're getting out at 10 or 2, getting out at 20 past 2 might still work, and then not have to get out at the end of the year. Even our elementary kids getting out about 3:15, if they got out at 3:45, that's not the end of the world as far as the day is concerned. But that's kind of a separate discussion from the first vote, and I don't want to muddy the two. If that's something you want to entertain, you want me to put a survey out, I'd be happy to do that. But again, I think it's a secondary action to tonight, and I don't want to have there be confusion in the community about which option we're going with. So if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of talk first about the makeup day and kind of make some action on that, the Good Friday, the April vacation, the Saturday option. And then if you want to have the follow-up conversation, we can, to see if it's data we want to try to receive.
So there was I received a lot of feedback, and the least amount of feedback I received was the half day on Good Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that really touched into the vacation, they already have plans, it was kind of a problem with that. Saturday, there was a little bit of pushback. I actually heard from some teachers on that one, a little bit of pushback on that, and rightfully so, right? So I think it's absolutely the least of the three, and I think you even minimized it more by coming up with the half day, which gets us to the 180, which is it's a non-starter. You're going to do 180. People are asking, why can't we just ask the governor to get a waiver on the 180? There's no waiver. You're doing the 180. So with that, my opinion is the half day on Good Friday as a result of my feedback from the people in Chelmsford.
I agree. I mean, I've heard back from parents through emails and just conversation, but I'd like to thank the teacher union actually did a survey of the staff, and and they asked them of the 3 days which would be the best. And reading through the responses, you sometimes forget that the teachers are also parents, so a lot of their reasoning they have are the same reasons our parents would, with vacations and activities on the weekends and things like that. And I would say overwhelmingly of the three, the teachers, I think 72% said Good Friday would work for them. And for some of the ones that said it might not work because of religious reasons, they suggest a half day. So I think that would bring even more people into the fold there. So I think that is probably the best option at this point.
I had a very passionate back and forth with one parent who their position was that this has always been a full day off, and he takes this holy day very seriously and was very upset and said he would feel the same way if it was any religion, not just his own, that he would care this much. So, I understand his viewpoint. The overwhelming input I got from parents was that the half day was a great compromise. I have had some discussions with support staff who are concerned about how it affects them, since that was a holiday for them in their contract. So if you could explain that for them, that would be great.
Sure. The way it's going to work basically for all of our staff in the district that have kind of an annualized salary at this point in time, like if you look at our, say, teaching staff, they work and are compensated for 182 days a year, 182 and a half days a year. So they're technically going to work Friday, but they're going to work one less day at the end of the school year. In most of our contracts, in some of our contracts, it does specify that Good Friday is a day off as long as school is not scheduled. So if school is scheduled, then it's just a regular work day. I think the contract that it comes into play is the paraprofessional
Yes.
Support contract, and it is listed, Good Friday is listed as a holiday. But when we, so like if we were just paying them by the hour like we used to with the time clock system, they would actually just check in and they would get a day's pay for that day. it was a holiday, they'd probably actually get time and a half.
Right.
Under the new situation, we've already baked the days into their salary, because now we've kind of annualized their salary
Annualized their
pay.
salaries, I
So
remember
all
that.
those holidays are actually already being paid, and they're included in the salary. I think the only gripe that they might have is technically, would it be time and a half or just straight time? But if we actually just do the half-day, they're gonna receive a full day's compensation for a half-day's work, so that would really nullify that argument.
There was, I don't want to imply there was any
There was an
griping.
argument,
Yeah,
but
there
it's
was no
just-
griping, it was just, could
only
you
exposure.
clarify it?
Yeah, so they would work a half-day. They're technically gonna receive compensation for a full day, but it's already built into their salary for the year,
Okay.
and they're not gonna, they'll work one less day at the end of June.
Okay. And the statement that went out from the superintendent in Billerica, he sent it out last night after their school committee meeting. It seems that they were just, it's only one day a week that they were adding, one day a week they were adding some time to,
Right.
and then there were some half days that were going to become full days, and they're shaving off an entire week of,
15 days.
that's, I mean, but getting onto the number of days, it's ridiculous. We have more than enough hours in time on learning. That's what the focus should be. This is just checking off boxes.
Yeah, it's a 180 plus the 900, 990.
Yeah.
And yes, we would hit that if we did the 180. However, this is the first time that they've provided a waiver for that. So even if we go over the 990, we still would have to have 5 hours. They're considering 5 hours a full day. We would need 25 hours to fulfill that last week.
We had this discussion years ago about the blizzard bags. Any movement in the State House or the DESE on that? Because that would be a great solution.
Yeah, I can speak to that, but I didn't know if we were doing the Good Friday, because that doesn't play, that's not coming into play for the 5 days. So are we trying to finish one before we can go to the other?
Yeah, I don't know, even if we do it together, I wanna make sure that we're
We should have a
decisive on the
motion.
vote,
Yeah,
and then we
and
can
then I
have the
can-
other
I
talk.
can talk about
Just to not have people wondering.
We should have a motion on the
Okay.
floor.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we have a half-day on Good Friday to make up what we need for the 180.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
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 Any negative or vote or abstention? Seeing none, it's unanimous.
Thank you for that, to just kinda resolve that, and we'll get communication out after our meeting tonight too, just to let families know. Linda, do you wanna touch base on the blizzard bag?
Yeah, so, they're now called alternative structured learning time.
Yes.
No blizzard bags. So what has been happening is a couple of things. There's some pilots that are happening within the region. So you have North Middlesex, you have.
Wakefield or Wilmington.
Wakefield,
Yeah.
they were in the process. If you remember back in the day when it was really, really bad, it was Burlington. They kind of stepped up to the plate when they needed a few additional days. So there's a few pieces that go along with it. And last night I watched Westford's school committee, so they were talking about them for about an hour and 45 minutes. What they're trying to do is recover the days even though they've already happened. So what we decided as a group is to kind of get together as the Merrimack Valley Assistant Superintendents and find out what works, what doesn't work. There are a lot of complications with it. This is not something that you can just take on today and tomorrow we suddenly have some type of alternative structure, because it takes a lot of pieces to develop the lessons. One of the teachers is going to be able to do that. How are the students going to receive special ed services? So there's a lot of nuances that go along with that piece. As Dr. Lang said, that what we could do is with the new waiver, possibly add on the time during the day, because here's the thing, the kids are deep in content now. In June, and I think the teachers probably in the audience would be able to agree with this, in June, they're not that deep in the content. So to put something like this together just to get through this process would probably not be in our best interest. That would be my recommendation, if you were to ask me. I would rather see time now, if we were to entertain those 5 days, to try and get something back to add to the school day. Like Dr. Lang said, I mean, it would be nice if you could just say, here, an hour for every day. That would be a lot to try and
But as
take
an
care of.
alternative, I mean, just to, while we're having a school day,
Yep.
you know, a blizzard outside, kids have the blizzard bag, or we're not calling it a blizzard bag anymore, but
Alternative structured learning.
is there an acronym for
I'm
that?
gonna make it. I was going to, that was next.
You know, it would be nice to have that already in our pocket.
Yep.
there's a snowstorm out there, there's electricity outages, you know, be
You
prepared.
would need to, right, we can put together a committee, and if we were to even move forward with, let's say, adding time to the day now, we would work with those people to say who would like to be on a larger committee. Yeah, for me, I would say it would take at least 6 months or so to put something like that together, because it would have to be approved. We'd have to find out, like, you have other teachers such as, you know, guidance counselors, where do they fit in? Where do, you know, special educators fit in, your OT, PT, how are we going to compensate for students that would need some type of compensatory services provided to them? So I'm not against it, I just think trying to put it together now would be difficult.
Well, we'll see how they make out.
Well, they are, right, and I think we'll let
Good
Westford go
test case.
first.
Yeah, let them go first, I
I like
agree.
to be just right. So even with that, you know, that piece, they just started this whole option of possibly using this in January. Even those districts that are trying it right now, they just got together in January and they're trying to launch it.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm just curious, does the committee actually have a feeling, or is there anything you would want me to survey staff and families on, as far as, you know, would we try to quantify the last 5 days of school, the last week in June, and see if there is any interest in adding time to our existing days to basically cut out the 5 days at the end of the school year? Is that anything you would want me to get data on?
I'd love to hear the results of the survey. I don't know if it's feasible, as Linda's pointed out, you know, but I'd love to.
We would have to move fast.
Yeah, I'd love to see the results of that survey.
I think Linda's thing that she was talking about, like, say, the blizzard bag, whatever you call it, that's almost like a separate lesson.
Yes.
That you'd have to
Yes.
kind of prepare and send home.
Right.
Adding, you know, extra minutes onto the existing day, there wouldn't be, I mean, there'd be some planning involved, but you would basically be lengthening, say, at the elementary level, your ELA or math block, something like that.
Yes.
It's already structured in time, it would just be being used a little bit differently. And I don't know if there's a desire among staff and parents to put in an extra half an hour now to get out the last week of June early, you know?
Mean parents would like that.
I'd love to, for you guys to do something like that, you know.
We
'cause
could at least survey and
yeah,
get
put
results.
a survey out, let the parents and the
And then we
teachers
still have to
comment
receive the
on it.
waiver from the state, so there are
Yeah,
certain
there's a whole
criteria that
application
go along
process,
with
right.
that. So that's why I was saying we'd have to move swiftly, because this would have to start like in a couple of weeks in order to actually get those.
Well, the worst case scenario is you might not shave 5, but you might shave 3.
True, but.
Right? I'm just saying.
But they'll
think
get
the
final
kids-
schedules to deal with at the high school, so it just muddies it if you are trying to flip over into
I
weeks.
think a lot of schools are trying to find a way to get out that Friday before.
Yeah.
And, you know, leave on the 22nd and not have to come back that last week. So, like, that's Borica's situation. I think they're coming back for 2 days, the Monday and Tuesday. So they're trying to just buy enough time to basically not have to come back on a Friday for 2 days, but leave on, I'm sorry. You know,
Come back on Monday,
not
Tuesday, leave
come
on
back
Friday.
on a Monday, Tuesday. They want to go out on
Right,
Friday.
unless
Now,
it's
why is
only
the state being
3
so
days.
flexible with this all of a sudden?
Yeah.
All of a sudden?
Well,
This is extraordinary,
And that's what I mean, it's unlike,
But
They're
that,
only on that part.
how do they get the number 180? You know what I mean? It's,
Well, I'm sure it's-
That's a bigger
yeah, I'm
discussion. I
sure
mean,
it's
that's a
an
whole
antiquated
legislative thing.
right, it's just arbitrary.
Right. I will say that the former commissioner, before his passing, was adamantly opposed to altering the 180-day requirement, the 990 requirement, any of this kind of structured, you know, learning time discussion. The interim commissioner is a little bit more open to it. I think we just received a message saying that the new commissioner is coming on board like the first week in April. So we'll have to see what stance he takes. But the interim commissioner was at least open to it, and I think that's why some communities did a little bit of legwork and tried to see if there was any play. We'll have to see what the new commissioner says, but a lot of it comes as a recommendation from him to the Board of Ed, and obviously then gets regulated at the state level.
it can't hurt us to survey and see what people.
No, I don't think
No.
a survey would hurt. I don't want it to be confused, and that's why the messaging will need to be clear that, you know, we are doing a half-day Good Friday so that people don't confuse the two. But then at the same time, parallel to that, we can put out a survey, we can work with the unions to survey staff and see if there's an interest. If there's an interest, it might be worth exploring. If there's not, there's no harm in finding out the information, and we take the data and go from there.
Now, would be any impact on transportation just because of buses? You know, some bus companies use their buses for other events after schools are done, and
Nominal, to be honest with you. If we're talking like a half an hour, it's not gonna throw things off. Our bus company is under contract to primarily service us. So yes, it could alter some of like the after-school, say athletic runs, but it's gonna be impacted MVC-wise. Other schools are gonna be doing things as well. So I'm not that concerned. I mean, technically, our regular ed and our sped vehicles are under our kind of care under our contract, we can dictate the schedule. All three of us leveled schools would have to do this, though. This isn't something that, like, say, just the high school could entertain, but not the others, because we run the three-tiered transportation system. So we have to kind of back the whole tier up, or it throws off our routes.
What happens if we can't get enough substitutes to cover the teachers or staff who don't come in? Do we have an alternative? I'm
gonna be quite honest with you, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So, and when we talked to the staff about this, we said this is a problem. So we're gonna get the advertisement out tonight. We're gonna work with staff tomorrow to tell them exactly, what to do, because staff still can put in, say, for a religious day, things like that, a personal day if they had travel plans. If by chance there were ever too many staff that called in sick or out for that particular day, and we couldn't operate school, I could not, in good conscience, have school. So we could be in a situation where we had to, ironically, after approving a half-day, cancel it because I can't have kids come to school without proper staffing. So I hope that does not happen. Again, based on the feedback that we received from staff, they seem willing to work the half-day to make up that day. Because if we ever, God forbid, had to cancel school on Friday, then we're looking at a Saturday option. And I think the Saturday option was far less palatable. And, staff then wouldn't have a religious exemption on a Saturday. It would be, it'd be a lot tougher. So I think they're gonna try to work with us to get this in for Friday. But we're gonna get clear direction out tomorrow to ask anyone who does need to take a day to register it tomorrow so that we can see what we're looking at data-wise.
How many absences do we have on a normal Friday? We have enough substitutes to cover just a normal Friday.
Yeah, I mean, this would be like an extenuating circumstance, but I at
Well,
least wanna look at
religious
what.
holiday.
No, I know, but I at least wanna look at what data we're looking at, tomorrow as opposed to like Friday, so.
Oh, yeah.
So we're gonna get right on this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, item number 3, we actually, we reached a tentative agreement, Town Manager Cohen can come on up as well. We did reach a tentative agreement with the building custodians. We have currently 9 building custodians in the district that were non-affiliated. They had petitioned to join with the teachers union as a subgroup, similar to like our paras are a subgroup in that particular bargaining unit. So we've been negotiating with them for quite a while around a first contract. So technically, as a non-affiliated employee, they're not working under a contract. The first time that they go out to actually start working under a contract does take a little bit longer than a normal negotiation because all of the language you're negotiating is from scratch. So Chairman Thomas and Mr. Moses have been working as the subcommittee for the school committee to negotiate this contract, and we did reach a tentative agreement last week. It's my understanding that the custodial group as well also convened, and they have ratified this agreement. So if the school committee does ratify this evening as well, we will have our first contract with this group. If you want, I can maybe, it's like a 20-page document because it's the first contract. If you want, I can give you some very highlights, top level, and then I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Basically, it's the first contract. It's a 3-year contract, so it covers a period from July 1, 2017, so it's retroactive back to the start of this fiscal year, and it goes until June 30th of 2020. There's all of your regular language you'd find within an agreement as far as a recognition, committee rights, there's a grievance procedure, work schedule, work days, talking about what seniority is going to encompass, what the hours of work are, what will constitute overtime pay. There's a provision around sick leave, professional leave, personal leave, bereavement leave, jury duty, dues deductions, all of your standard language. But I think the key is that basically it is an initial contract, it's a 3-year contract. The wages were set when the individuals were hired back prior to July 1, 2017. We did agree to create a step structure similar to what we have in our other collective bargaining agreements. All of the individuals basically are just going to be given credit for the time that they've served in the Chelmsford Public Schools. So a lot of them came on board as Aramark left, and they came on. So they worked July 1, 2016, all the way through June 30th, 2017. Technically non-affiliated, not under a contract. We're going to give them seniority for that year. So technically, last July 1st, they will jump to step 2 as opposed to step 1. They're going to get a year's credit, and then they will go up the step frame. The COLA increases are 2%, 2%, 2%, so it's a 2-2-2, similar to our other contracts. And I think it's a very good contract all around. I think the language is fair on both sides. I think the wages are fair. I think, with any contract negotiation, both sides would like to have seen a little bit, something different, but I think there was a meeting of the minds, particularly in our last meeting, and we really wanted to put some effort into getting this contract done, so that we can end the school year with all of our units having current contracts. And this group in particular has really worked hard this winter. As we're talking about school delays and cancellations and whatnot, they're really our front line during all of these storms. Most of our schools, with the exception of the high school, only have one custodian, so it's one person out there, doing all the plowing and snow blowing and sanding. They have gone above and beyond this year and really worked really, really hard this winter. So I commend them for their work. We obviously want to keep working with them. They're a great group. And so I would recommend the committee vote to ratify this agreement.
Questions or discussion?
The only thing I would note is that the 3-year duration extends beyond the duration of all your other agreements. This puts you out a year out beyond your conclusion of your other collective bargaining agreements. I don't think it's significant, but it's just worth noting that it carries you forward into FY20.
Just on that, we did have a discussion about that. It's a very small unit. There's only 9 or 10 employees, and it was with the initial contract. We really wanted to try to get a 3-year deal done, just to have a little bit of stability, because they'd come off a year without a contract. And at the time we started this, we didn't know where the other contracts were going to fall, and we didn't want to then go back and penalize this group just to get them in order. So that can be a discussion that the committee has at another time if they ever wanted to try to get the contracts back in order. But it isn't like this is a 100-person group. It's only 9 individuals.
I'd just like to comment that because it was the first one, it had unique challenges, and it took some serious work at the end. We went to 10:30 that last night, and both sides were committed to making it work, and so it was really nice to come out of there with a settlement that I think all of us felt was fair to both groups.
Here.
Nice work, guys.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Would you like to make the motion on that hard work, or would you like me to?
I'll make the motion. Well, this is actually going to be your last motion. I think you should make it. This is it. Well,
Chairman?
you have the closing motion, too.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to ratify the Federation of Teachers Building Custodians contract.
Second.
Any further comment or discussion?
I just want to note how dedicated this group of people is. I mean, I know Jay talked about the long hours. I've been in buildings on Saturdays and they're working. And they're working on Saturdays, they say, because if they don't work on Saturdays, they'll never catch up during the week. So they are a dedicated group, and we're lucky.
Just a quick question on the money. So
Oh, yeah.
I know we put some money aside in the budget for this. Does everything work out the way it should?
Yes, so the wages effective July 1, 2018, I had budgeted for, kind of knowing where we're at with the deal and knowing where we'd end up. So up to the penny, 2018 actually ties to the budget. And what we're going to end up doing is figuring out the retro pay. We'll adjust the salaries in the next paycheck, not this Friday's paycheck, the paycheck after. We'll adjust them to the correct rate, then figure out the retroactive pay. We'll process the retroactive pay, and then we'll bring a transfer before the committee, because we have money in the set-aside account for the salary reserves that we'll need to transfer in to basically fill the salary accounts. But no, we're properly budgeted for fiscal 18, and we have the money set aside in 17 to cover this.
Because this involves money, it will be a roll call.
Yeah, it'd be a roll call vote.
Dennis?
Aye.
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 Unanimous.
Aye, Paul.
5-0.
Aye.
Paul, sorry.
That's all right.
Thank
Thanks
you
for coming,
being
Paul.
here.
Thank you, Paul.
To the committee members, I am going to just pass around 3 copies of the, whatchamacallit, the signature sheet. Could you just please use the blue pen, and then just make sure you sign all 3, and just send that back to me at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Paul. Next item on the agenda this evening is a memo before you. Peggy Gump, our coordinator of school nursing services, just sent a little update about a new CBERT, I believe it's called, screening that's going to be being conducted in the middle schools and the high school this coming spring. Again, for informational purposes, just in case you hear this, if you're talking to staff or families, wanted to let you know that screening is going to be taking place. There are going to be some individual, did you want to discuss the survey?
Sure, I can talk about it a little bit. So if you remember when our department coordinator for guidance came and with our PE and health coordinator, they talked a lot about, students, their needs. They're taking these surveys. These surveys that they're taking are, paper pencil. They're doing them on their own. There is no interaction with any adults. So when this came about where they were going to be doing the SBIRT survey, this has a little bit more of that personal piece to it, so we can help students, identify students, and be able to work with them. We picked, they were picked grades 7 and 8 because those are two of the ages and the years in which students, we start to see some of these behaviors that are not behaviors that we want them to be promoting. And when it comes to time for the teachers, the students to be in health, the students have health in 7, and then there's the new requirement for grade 9. So this is just a good opportunity to be able to try and capture some of those students that you might not necessarily capture and be able to help because they're taking a paper pencil survey. And this will be, we'll have our nurses, our health teachers, everybody's certified to be able to do this type of work, and they have a better relationship with the students.
No action is required of the committee this evening. We're really just kind of conveying it to you just for information in case you hear staff in the schools talking about it.
Parents.
Can we assume McCarthy's already gotten this notification?
Yeah, that, I was just gonna say, the letters have gone out to the staff just to the timeliness of this meeting. It's gone out to parents. There is the opt-out piece, so parents can contact the schools and opt out of this. And everything's anonymous. We don't keep the information on the students, so it's not like there's going to be some confidentiality issues with this information sitting there.
Any other questions? Okay, agenda item number 5, just again, kind of conveying to you, we're a member of Valley Collaborative. As we know, Valley Collaborative does a lot of good work with some of our neediest students. Chris Scott, the executive director, puts together a kind of biannual newsletter just talking about some of the different programs and services that Valley is providing, and just wanted to pass that along to the board. We'll be working with Valley on an unrelated matter to again try to figure out our compensation that'll be being returned to us at the end of the year as a result of their programming operating again in excess, generating excess revenue. So we don't have a number yet, but when we have that a little bit later on in the springtime, I'll report that to you. But again, just sharing the newsletter showing some of the good programming that's taking place at Valley. Our staff and students continue to really do some extraordinary things there. I just want to share that with you.
Great pictures in there, too.
Very good. Are you in there?
I'm not in there, but.
Maggie is.
Is Maggie? What page is Maggie
I
on?
like the 10th page.
It's on, I'm right on it, 60.
Page which one?
Of the whole packet. Page 60.
With the fire engine.
Oh, I see her with Team Walk, the check.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, on the fire engine.
Yeah. No, they really do some
Yeah,
great.
they do a great
they
job.
do some great
They really
programming.
do.
Item number 6 on the agenda this evening is just the copy of the personnel report. So again, this report just keeps the school committee in the loop on any of our new hires to the district, resignations, retirements, and then any assignment changes within the district. Just news, so in case you're in the buildings, you see a new face, you can put a name with a face and get a sense of where they're coming and going within the district. Again, no action required on this. Questions on the personnel report? Okay. And last this evening, 2 requests for travel. The first one, I retroactively approved, or I approved, so you're retroactively granting permission on. This was the Chelmsford High School Theater Guild, participated last weekend in their state final competition. It was funny, when I talked to the groups, and I said, well, if the athletic teams too, if you know these competitions are coming, I said, we can put them on the agenda ahead of time. And they all said, well, we can't do that, that'll jinx us. we might not be able to make it. So the same thing happened with the wrestling team a little earlier in the season. But, so we do grant the permission for them to go. Obviously, we don't want to withhold them competing in a state tournament, but we always put it on the agenda just so you know that they did participate. But obviously, as Linda indicated earlier, they did great. So this was their trip to Boston, March 22nd through 24th. And then I'm not 100% certain, but would like to get approval if I do decide to go to the National Safety Conference this summer in Orlando. I won't know for a couple of weeks, but just if I do end up deciding to go, wanted to let you know that I was going to be doing that and get your permission.
If you can't make it, can someone go in your place? I think that's really important that someone be there.
Yeah, it's the school superintendents and like law enforcement. I'm just trying to juggle a family commitment.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain I'm going to be able to juggle that. I wish the conference were in a little bit cooler of a climate. I'm
Yeah,
not a
it's
really
awful.
summer person in Florida,
Yeah.
but it's supposed to be an excellent conference, and I'll know within the next 2 weeks.
It's just such an important and timely topic.
Oh, it is, it is. And I'll confer for you. I'll send you an email just to let you know one way or the other, but we're trying to make it work.
Want to jump back in with something when I get you. Okay, well, you just approved something retroactively, and I just want you to know hot off the presses, because people text me and tell me things. So the Theater Guild that finished up those finals in Boston, they had 61 students. Philip Ferdinand, Kevin Hamilton, Sophia Ballone were part of the All-Star Company, and they received rewards for excellent acting, so that was nice. Thank you for approving that, even though it's done. And then the Thursdays were one of two cappella groups at CHS. They won the regional competition, and they'll be performing in New York City.
I'd just like to comment that while the play may have reflected Chelmsford High School somewhat, not all of the scenes are accurate. If you haven't seen it, I'm not explaining.
If we could just have a motion
Yeah.
to approve these 2 trips, that would be great.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the 2 field trips.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye? Aye. Any negative vote or abstention? None, unanimous. Do we have any liaison reports?
I went to the PTO meeting at South Row. Things are going very well with their PTO. They're a terrific group, a lot of energy. Also went to McCarthy's PTO, and their rock and roll bingo was a huge success, and they will be doing that again next year.
Last night went to the Board of Selectmen, and they approved our resubmission of the SOI, so 4-1 there, so it was, Dr. Lane did a nice job presenting that, as usual. Hall of Fame dinner was this Saturday. Al and I both attended there, and another great class got in, and wanted to just mention how many people mentioned Al in their speeches, so it shows how much impact he's had on these people as they went through. Barbara and I both were Saturday at the Walk for Peace in the center, and I mentioned it because we had some Chelmsford students that spoke, and
They were
outstanding,
excellent.
you know, unbelievable. They
Yeah.
they seemed like they were professional, spokespeople.
We had a retired teacher speak as well.
Yeah, they were great, and kind of related to that, Principal Murray sent a letter out about the walk-in at the high school, and he and I kind of commiserated, but we had a similar one where we are, and the respect that the kids showed for the event and for each other, it's just phenomenal. So, you know, these kids really do know what's going on. So.
I just have a couple of things. I'd like to remind people that on the half-day, Election Day, April 3rd, members of the high school student body will be staying after school to package almost 13,000 meals for Rise Against Hunger. We've been doing it for several years, and the actual packaging will start at 10:30, and it only takes about an hour to do 13,000 meals. But if you have a few minutes to stop by, it's really an impressive event to see. And the work of the kids, obviously, is well to be praised. The other thing is, most of you know, today was the day of giving for the Alumni Association. This is a major fundraiser for them to try to make sure that the association's work continues. And one of the side benefits, which has to be the details have to be worked out, but a percentage of the money raised is going to be used to support after-school activities, whether they're athletics or the arts or whatever. And the details, as I say, will be worked out, but they're basically startup money for people that, or one-time money, might want to bring in a speaker or to buy something that, you know, that a club, because a club's budgets are almost non-existent, so anything like that. So the details need to be worked out, but I think it's exciting that kids are going to have access to a little more money for some things. This is a grand wrap-up for one of our members. Most of you know Sal has chosen not to stay with us, which, you know, I understand his commitments, and he will not be able to, but I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the town, because the town benefited and the committee for his work over the last term in office.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir. What a pleasure.
Thank you, Sal. Quick question. We meeting next week, reorg meeting. I don't know what the selectmen decided to do last night. Is it Thursday, maybe?
I don't know if they did.
I think they did. Anybody? Thursday?
Thursday. I'll confer with the town clerk
Okay.
tomorrow and find out, and then I'll forward an email to you guys and check availability. Normally, if the town convenes, we do the same. So let me just reach out to her tomorrow, time-wise, and I'll send you an email.
Great.
Anything else?
Just a
Yes.
quick comment. So I just wanted to say thank you to Sal Lupoli. Just if I had one memory that I had to bring up over the a couple of years I got to work. First of all, I heard a lot about you before I came on. Some turned out to be true, some not true. You know, we'll take the good and the bad and all of that. But just a couple things I don't think people realize. Sal actually, I think you only missed one meeting in 3 years.
Yes.
That's a true story. And that's a lot of commitment to this town, and I appreciate that. But if there's one memory I would really love to talk about is you were a really great voice at town meeting, and especially when we talk about those modulars in that space to get up and speak in front of the town. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate your mentorship, and thank you for the time I had.
Thank you, John.
Anyone else like to speak? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
There you go.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, I didn't know what this was.
Oh, the dance.
Yeah.
I gotta go shake this.
Over and above.